Welcome to the Wolverine Digest podcast, the best spot for objective and authentic coverage of Michigan athletics. If you want open dialogue, honest opinions, and in-depth coverage of the maize and blue, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Brandon Brown, joined as always by Chris Breiler.
I was going to start by saying go blue.
Good evening, Mr. Breiler, on a Wednesday.
Sir. On a Wednesday.
Hope you're feeling good, living good, smelling good. I don't know. I don't know.
I've been cleaning out the basement, so I doubt I'm smelling good right now, dude. I feel like, you know what? I feel like I spend way too much time sweating. Like I sweat way more than the average person. And I don't know what the issue is, man. It's like anytime I get off the couch and start moving around, dude, it's perspiration left and right. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I suffer from the same affliction, man. I've talked about SBS for probably a decade now, dude. Sweaty back syndrome at its third degree.
I remember being in the press box at Wisconsin last year in the sun, just kicking through the window. And I look over at Brandon. He's got his dress shirt off. He's just there in a t-shirt. He's like, dude, my back's sweating. I got to go t-shirt.
Just white tee. And like, all right, so I've got a white tee on right now, but it's like a mock, it's got the buttons. It's a mock crew. Like it's fine. This was a Hanes, a schmedium, so it fits underneath the regular shirts. Like it was not a good look, dude. Not a good look. But dude, in my defense, I mean, both of us don't like the sweatiness. That press box was bumping.
It was bumping. It was hot. Hot. I mean, there were like hornets on the inside. I mean, there was like a hornet problem in there. It was wild.
Yeah. And we were dealing with wasps. It was a rough day. But Michigan got a big win on in Camp Randall. I remember that fondly, and it was nice. And we met an interesting gentleman afterwards, and it's just part of the.
Are you talking about the Nazi?
Yeah, that fucking guy. Yeah,
dude came over from he like immigrated to the United States back in like 1895 and was like talking about what it was like in Germany, and I don't know it was wild.
He claimed to invent soccer in the United States.
He said he brought soccer to the United States.
First ever guy to play soccer in the United States. I'm like,
we spent way more time talking about Wisconsin at the beginning of the show than I thought we would.
I didn't think it was going to happen at all, to be honest with you. So there we are. So it's a Wednesday night. We are going to jump into fan-led Wednesdays, but we got a couple little topics, a couple little small. I don't know. They might turn into soapboxes. That's not really the plan necessarily, but there's a couple things that have been sticking in our craw. Me and Chris were on the phone for far too long today. I mean, just cackling like some hens, dude.
An hour and a half just bitching like back and forth. It was
cackling.
My wife was impressed. She was like, I'm surprised you guys went that long.
Yeah, so we were on the phone for a while, but it's always just kind of talking about what we're going to talk about, what we're going to do. The things that are they're not always things that are bugging us.
Hey, Brian, our guy Brian.
Hey,
you see,
how about that?
We have entered a new world here with YouTube stuff. I love it. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but every time I see money come in, man, if it's $5, $1, I'm gonna freak out about it.
I wasn't even looking. I was looking at my notes, and I just heard. I'm like, "What happened? What happened?" Oh yeah, nice. All right. So, I guess I'll start here, Chris, because this seems to be the one thing that's bugging us the most. Michigan's about to enter Big Ten play. It's going to be Maryland. Michigan's favored by a lot, 17 or 18, I think the line is. Obviously, that's not 40 or 50 like it was the last few games. But there's a lot of people that have continued to bitch about the three non-conference games and what that means and why. Every time anything is talked about with Michigan right now, and it's some of their own. Like Michigan fans are eating their own. I don't really get that. We know they didn't play anybody that good, but they still handled business. They're scoring 55. They're giving up 5. They took care of
can you repeat what you said there where you said that we know they haven't played anybody good? Because I feel it's almost like people out in the market don't realize that we're aware of that. Like every single time somebody mentions the non-conference schedule or who have they played, it's like, is anybody unaware at this point? We all know that it's been 3 shitty teams. We get that. But I mean, do we have to talk about that every single time we talk about something that's happening with this team? Do we have to put like a disclaimer out there that Okay, here's what Blake Corum did. Disclaimer, it was against 3 shitty teams. Here's what JJ did. Disclaimer, against 3 shitty teams. Like everybody knows who they played. So if you're one of those people that continues to bring it up, you're just wasting everybody's time. And to be honest, you sound like an idiot.
Thieves of joy.
Thieves of joy. Thieves of joy.
Say it again. And I want to bring up all Michigan fans' favorite radio host, one Mike Valenti. Look, I listen to him most of the time. I like that he keeps it real, but he just can't help himself. He can't help himself to revert back to what makes him a Sparty slap.
He's a slap.
And that's part of it. It's not part of it. It's a monster part of his shtick. It's what he does. I get it. But I like listening to him when he talks about the Lions, when he talks about the Tigers. I like that stuff too. He just can't help himself when he talks about Michigan and like whatever. But he said something yesterday, dude, that blew my gourd. And I gotta clown him. I have to. And I would do it to his face. And I know Rico well because we both used to work for Rivals and cover a lot of the same recruiting events. I would tell him to his face. I would point and laugh at both of them. Mike Valenti actually said that he would rather do what Michigan State did, which is get their ass kicked on national TV on the road, than be Michigan, who's 3-0 after playing glorified high school teams. Yeah. I'm not shitting you. Those exact words came out of his mouth because he said, well, now we know what our weakness is, and now we know what. And I'm like, you do know that wins are better than losses, right? Yeah. Like, no matter what, like wins are always better than losses. And I just like the level of mental gymnastics that it took to get to that point to launch off your radio show for the day just blew my mind. I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
We talked about it earlier. The problem with that whole deal is there's nobody to check Mike Valenti now. So when he goes on these rants and when he says dumb shit like that, like there's nobody to check him. Like there isn't a chance in hell that any Michigan State Spartan fan right now would choose to be where they're at with the loss outside of the top 25 versus where Michigan is 3-0, number 4 in the country. Again, we get the non-conference schedule. Everybody gets it. And it's not going to mean shit in October and November when all these teams play each other anyway. So why we spend so much time talking about it, I don't get it. Good. Valenti, you figured out your team is duty. Congratulations. Like, do you feel better about that? Do you feel better about going out west and getting your ass kicked? Like, you're right. The mental gymnastics there that you would prefer to be in that position out of the top 25 with an early season loss versus where Michigan is. It's not even close to reality, but I mean, that's what you're getting over there.
So, and then it got me thinking because it's just been brought up and brought up and brought up and brought up. Okay, Michigan, first of all, they scheduled the Colorado State game multiple years ago back when Jim McElwain was running the show over there, and they were putting some points on some people. You don't know what a team's going to look like 6, 8, 10 years down the road when you schedule them. Pretty good chance Hawaii and UConn were not going to be good. Whatever. It is what it is. But it was also supposed to be UCLA. Michigan nixed that when they moved to the 9-game conference schedule. They wanted 7 home games. It's not just about scheduling 3 weak opponents. They made some late alterations to the schedule that weren't supposed to be part of the plan. They were supposed to play UCLA this year at home and next year at UCLA. It was a home and home. They canceled it. They replaced them with Hawaii and East Carolina. That's not as good. I understand. But then it got me thinking because the way that they've been talking about this, I'm not just talking about Spartan Radio either. I'm talking about nationally and all over the place is that Michigan schedule, like they should be punished for this. Like this is egregious. Like how can they do this? So I went and looked back all the way back to 2007. Michigan has literally, and I could have gone further. I stopped at 15 years because it was just like, well, for one, they used to play Notre Dame pretty much every year. So that was always in there. But dude, 2021, Washington, nothing in 2020, the COVID year. 2019, Army and Notre Dame. 2018, Notre Dame and SMU. 2017, Florida, Cincinnati, and Air Force. 2016, UCF and Colorado. 2015, Utah, Oregon State, BYU, App State, Notre Dame, Utah, Notre Dame, Alabama. Dude, Michigan doesn't do this. So the way that it's getting so much attention just irks me, and I don't really understand.
You know what it is? Well, here's the confusing part.
So real quick, Chris, and then I went and looked at Michigan State's. They have 6 FCS opponents over that same stretch. You know how many Michigan's got? Fucking zero, dude. So I don't understand why this point is being bludgeoned to death over and over and over by so many people when it's really not an issue. It's just
here's what I was gonna say, and Chris, appreciate it once again, man. I mean, you've been a rock star with the donations. Really appreciate that. Everybody that's throwing them in, but I thought a lot of it was coming from rival fan bases who, they're outside of the market. They're seeing what's happening here. They can see the excitement and they're trying to be a wet blanket on it. The surprise to me has been half the people complaining about the non-conference schedule are Michigan fans.
Yeah.
Like just choosing to be miserable. And we talked about this earlier. If Michigan goes out and beats the shit out of Maryland, what's the narrative going to be then? Is it that Maryland's not a good team? When they go out and they beat the shit out of Iowa on the road, is it going to be that Iowa wasn't a good team? How many games does this program have to play before it's okay to sit back and just acknowledge what's happening? And I've said this multiple times. Brandon and I are not booking our tickets for the college football playoff based on what's happened on the first 3 weeks. But it's okay to talk about the numbers. It's okay to talk about the production. Let's not forget there were big-time question marks about this defense heading into the season. They lost a ton of experience. They lost their defensive coordinator. Nobody knew what it was going to look like. And on top of that, for everybody that wants to shit on the production over the first 3 weeks, keep in mind, Michigan starters have played maybe half of the game. And so you're not even seeing like the full result of what could have been. I mean, Blake Corum could easily have 14 touchdowns by now, but they're spreading the ball. They're giving it around. So I for my mental, I can't continue to have these conversations with people about the non-conference schedule. It drives me insane. We're all aware that they played shitty teams. Let's just move on and talk football. But if you're one of those types that wants to reserve judgment until late October, early November, then go ahead and do that. But Brandon and I have a job to do, which is to explain to you what's happening with the football program.
And Danny, very good point. App State was, I stopped at 2007. They played in 07. Yes, they were FCS at the time when Michigan lost that game. Obviously, that was
no, they played App State more recently than that too.
I did. I said, they played them in 2014. And I think that was it. Yeah. So I said App State, referring to the 2014 matchup. In 2007, they were an FCS opponent. But for Michigan State, dude, last year they played Youngstown. A year ago, they played an FCS team. Then they've got Furman on there, Jacksonville State, Youngstown again, Northern Colorado, Montana State. None of that on Michigan's schedule anywhere until you go back to 07, when, by the way, App State just happened to be the national champs the year before that in the FCS rank. So I don't know, man. It's weird how often this keeps coming up. It's just strange all the way around, because it's just not really a narrative. I mean, it sucks for this 1 year, and next year's bad too. But again, it's because of that UCLA deal and whatever the reason was, they moved to the 9 conference games. It is. That's what it is. All right, so there's that. We wanted to talk about that for a second. And the last thing we wanted to get to before we open it up all the way for you guys to ask questions is this thing that happened on Monday, Chris. So I was still out of it a little bit. I had to wait for a negative test, which I had yesterday. So I didn't go to the press conference on Monday. And somebody asked Jim Harbaugh about getting text messages from his wide receivers about getting the ball more.
Yeah.
All right, so here, it's really weird how this happens a lot, right? Me and Chris will have a little soapbox. We'll have an issue. We'll talk about it. We'll get a little pushback, but a lot of times people are kind of on the same page. And then lo and behold, somebody who actually matters within the program or within the university will say pretty much the exact same thing. It happened with NIL stuff and Hunter Dickinson. It happened with Harbaugh in the NFL, and then he goes and takes a damn interview with the Vikings. And now is happening with us having a little bit of a concern about the receivers not getting the ball very much. And, oh, what do you know? They're texting Harbaugh about, like, hey, bruh, can we get some passes thrown our way? Like, again, they're averaging 55. They're giving up 5. They're 3-0. They're probably going to truck Maryland. Things are great. They're number 4 in the country. But there is that dilemma that we talked about on Monday's show where, Cornelius Johnson, Eric All, Andrel Anthony, 1 catch for 4 yards between the 3 of them last game. And Andrel has 1 catch for 5 yards on the whole season. So it's not just us. The actual guys wearing the jerseys are a little bit concerned about what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the thing that's weird to me is that we spent so much time during the offseason leading up to the year talking about how deep that wide receiver group was, how much talent was there, and how excited we were to see it. And then 3 weeks into the season, you've got players texting Coach Harbaugh saying, "Hey, what can I do to get the ball more?" I understand that there is more to the wide receiver position than just catching the ball. There's blocking, there's different things you need to do. I get that. But at the end of the day, I just don't understand how you don't get the ball in the hands of your weapons. Like, how does Andrel Anthony through 3 games have 1 catch for 5 yards? Like, to me, that blows my mind. How does a guy like what does Roman Wilson have? 4 or 5 receptions on the year? I know that Ronnie Bell's leading the way. He's got 14, but again, it feels like we're complaining just to complain, like we're making up these talking points. But then you get into a press conference and you hear that players are texting Harbaugh saying, "How can we get more involved?" And so that really just speaks to the fact that what we're seeing is a reality. These guys are talented and they want to get the ball. And when they spend an entire week of practice and an entire Saturday not being involved, that starts to wear on you week after week. And so we know the running backs are good. We know Blake Corum can go out and get 5, 6, 7 touchdowns against a team like UConn. But I'd rather see some other guys get the ball in their hands, get that experience, get into a rhythm so that when you get into conference play, that part of your game is up and running. Well, that time is come and gone now. They didn't use the first 3 weeks to do that. So is it going to look different against Maryland? Are we going to see? I mean, how does J.J. McCarthy not throw a touchdown pass? That blows my mind. Like, that should just be an automatic every single game. And so, yeah, I feel like the scheme is going to have to change later on in the year to keep up with the opponents that they're going to face. I just wish you would have seen more of that the first 3 weeks so that if nothing else, the guys know, like, hey, we got that in us. You can do it all day long on the practice field, but if you're not doing it on Saturdays, it's still a big unknown. And right now it is heading into conference play. We'll see what it looks like on Saturday.
I wish this was audio. We would immediately turn it into a drop. Aaron Hammond wants to see the D.
Don't we all?
Wants to see the D. And Fletch, no. Andrel's not a diva. He's
what is that? What's that based on?
And honestly, I don't even know if it was Andrel who sent a text. So I have no idea where that comes from. We just heard generically that some wide receivers wanted to be more involved. And because of the way it's went, it could be like one of any 5 or 6 guys, because besides Ronnie Bell, nobody else has really been involved in the passing game when you're talking about the wide receivers.
And Travis, I get that. I get that 2 wide receivers were tackled at the 1. They didn't get in the end zone. Those could have been touchdown passes. I get that. But we can sit here and do ifs and buts all day long. The reality is they didn't put the ball in the end zone through the air, and the wide receivers didn't get that involved. And that's what I'm talking about. It's not necessarily like a complaint or even a concern at this point. Brandon and I talked about it. It's more just a preference, but it starts to teeter into concern a little bit when you hear that players are texting their head coach asking how they can get the ball more. And Ron Thomas, yes, it is a crowded wide receiver room. Brandon and I talked about that earlier. Even so, we know one guy's getting the ball. What about the rest? Like, that's my thing. Like, it's a crowded room, but there isn't really any guy in that group that's balling out this year. Will it come? Probably. I would expect Andrel's production to go up, Ronnie's production, Roman's production. I would expect that to go up out of necessity. But again, it's about what do you do those first 3 weeks to get your team ready? And I don't know, what did you see out of this team that you felt prepared them for conference play, outside of just bullying everybody because they could?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said something on Monday. And somebody was like, come on, man, this isn't Madden. It's not like you get a touchdown, you get a touchdown. Like, no, it kind of is against those teams. It is. Like, Blake Corum scored 5. And again, I mean, we talked about this. Like, dude, if Schoonmaker takes one more step before he falls down, he's got a touchdown. Right. If Ronnie Bell doesn't get shoved out the 1, he's got a touchdown. Instead, you're at the 1-yard line. So I guess, you give it to Blake. And I get it. Like, it wasn't like they just force-fed Blake Corum 45 carries and refused to throw.
Or you do a two-step drop and you toss it to Andrel in the corner and give him a chance to just go up and snag it out of the air. So he has the experience of doing that once early in the year. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying Andrel's got to be targeted 10 times a game. Can he get targeted once, twice? Can he get his hands on the ball once or twice? Like, that's all I'm saying.
And it just it'd be cool to see some of those guys eat. I mean, people want to see JJ throwing touchdowns. They want to see wide receivers scoring, and Blake's going to get his. I mean, he's going to get his. The running backs are going to get theirs. So, yeah, the little pop passes, the little jet sweeps where you throw it forward. I mean, that's it's technically a pass, but get those guys involved a little bit. And look, I do expect it to change this week. I think the starters are going to play the majority or the whole game. I mean, Michigan won by 41 last year at Maryland. I don't know if it'll be that way this year, but I do expect Michigan to win pretty easily. So, we'll see. We'll see what it ends up looking like.
Fletch, he was on the field last week. I think he played 27 snaps and wasn't targeted a single time. So he is on the field. He's just, how are you on the field 26, 27 snaps and not targeted a single time? Like, it's puzzling to me. Is it he's not getting open? Is there something else going on? I don't know. And we can speculate about that all day long. The bottom line is we saw last year what kind of talent he has, and that just doesn't go away. And so you'd like to see a little bit more of it early.
All right. Before we get into fan-led Wednesdays, let's hear a little bit from our guy, Rich.
Richie.
Mediascape's located in Burton. Let me fill you in a little bit about our business. We are a full-service sign and graphic company, from banners, yard signs, to vehicle wraps. When it comes to marketing your business, we also provide video and photography services, as well as apparel and promotional items. If it's something that will make your business or organization stand out, we do it. And I guarantee we do it well. We are Mediascapes on Dordt Highway, south of Bristol Road, just before Rock Bottom. Check out our work at Mediascapes.com. That's Mediascapes with a K.com.
Mediascapeswithak.com. There's the phone number, 810-410-4737 in Burton, as they said in the commercial. And yeah, go check Rich out. He'll hook you up, whatever you need, whatever you want. Chris is already talking about stealing his audio equipment. I mean, he's got it all, dude. He's
got so many toys that I want to get my hands on. There's no doubt about it.
Writing that down.
Well, that's fine to say.
That's going to be a fantastic drop in with certain context. He's got so many toys. I just want to get
so many toys.
He even said it kind of like Barry Whitish a little bit. Like you were feeling it right there. Like,
I like technology. What can I say?
Oh boy. There was a good question that popped up that I wanted to address real quick while we were
Let's open it up.
Commercial. Where did that go? Oh, John Patrick said, "Well, ask Coach Harbaugh about it in the presser." They did, right? That was what he prompted it on Monday.
He was asked. So standing in the press conference, he was asked, "Hey, Jim, heard that some of the wide receivers are texting you to see how they can get more involved. Do you want to comment on that?" And Jim's response was basically, "Yeah, I welcome it. Let's get to work." And then he just kind of stared off into the distance. And so that's, he's not going to say much about it at the press conference. He's not going to admit to the fact that the guys aren't touching the ball, or that there might be a little bit of frustration from some of the wide receivers who want to be more involved. But, I don't know what it is, man. We can ask Jim all day long at the press conference, but he's been doing this for a while, and he's not really in the business of dishing out too much information during those interactions.
Very, very good. So that's, I mean, he didn't say a whole lot. So there you go. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. If you've got questions, let them fly. We will grab them as we go. And I'm going to grab this one first because Jesse Minter talked about this exact thing today at the press conference. You can go check out the story over at WolverineDigest.com that I put up. 5 most interesting things that he said, and pressure on the quarterback and pass rush was one of them. So Fletch asks, will Michigan get some backfield pressure on the quarterbacks finally? And Jesse Minter straight up said, I really think that what we saw in week 2 and week 3 was a direct result of what we did in week 1. And I believe him. I mean, how could you not? How could a Hawaii and a UConn, who already knows they're supremely outmatched, not as big, not as strong, not as fast, and watched all those sacks happen to Colorado State from all different levels and not say, we got to get rid of the ball real quick? And Hawaii definitely did that. UConn held it a little longer. I actually do give some props to that freshman quarterback for UConn. He was able to drop back and extend plays and step up into the pocket and do a little bit more than I expected from a kid like that who had never really played before and was a true freshman. So I think it was a little bit of both in the UConn game. I think the quarterback was better than maybe Michigan thought. I think he played better than I expected him to, and I do think he still got rid of it pretty quickly. But against Hawaii, dude, there was no question. Like they just didn't have time to get there.
Yeah. Well, and we know that they're physical. We know that they're athletic. And somebody asked me about this on Twitter. If because let me put this out there, because I had put it out on the social media page earlier, on the Facebook page. I think I had put it out on all the socials actually. But according to the Pro Football Focus, Jalen Harrell has a top pass rush production grade in the Big Ten Conference. So he's number 1 in the Big Ten Conference in pass rushing. Mike Morris ranked number 9th. Yabioki ranked number 10. And Braden McGregor ranked 13th in the Big Ten among all pass rushers.
Yeah, did Anoma like change his name or something?
I think so. Yeah, he put out
like that a couple times.
He put out a statement on Twitter that said it's Oki, not Anoma, or something like that.
All
so
right.
it's Yabi Oki. I believe that's how you pronounce it. But in any event, so the pass rushers are grading high, even though they might not be getting to the quarterback. And I think that speaks to the chaos that they're creating up front. And so, yeah, I think a lot of what happened in game 1 and game 2 was a result of what happened in game 1. And you're going to see, look at what Maryland's going to trot out there in Tagovailoa. He's a mobile quarterback. He's athletic. He can make things happen. It's going to test this defense. But again, I think it's, even if they're not getting to the quarterback and getting sacks, I think they're making things so difficult for a quarterback in terms of like having to rush and not be able to go through your progression. UConn, I get it. They're a shitty team. We understand. They had like 24 yards passing all afternoon. That speaks to how disruptive that defensive front is. And so I'm not concerned about the lack of sacks. I've been really actually pretty impressed with how the defense has performed so far. It was a huge unknown going into the season. We didn't really know what we were going to get out of Jesse Minter. And so far, man, they look really good. And there's nothing wrong with giving them some credit for replacing guys like Aiden Hutchinson, David Ojabo, Dax Hill, Brad Hawk. There was a lot of guys they had to replace, and they've done it, and they've looked good. And it's okay to say that.
Yeah, I've been thoroughly impressed with Jesse Minter. I wouldn't say doubts, but I'm like, wow, dude, Mike McDonald just ended up being. I had doubts about him when he was hired. I'm like, never been a coordinator before. Like, oh man, what's this going to look like? And he was incredible. And then when he left, I'm like, well, there's pretty much no way it can be that good again. And it might be. I've been really impressed with Jesse Minter and what he's doing. So yeah, this will be a better test for it. You mentioned all the reasons why: better athletes, better scheme. More prepared coaches, higher level, and then certainly the quarterback play is going to be by far the best Michigan has seen so far. Chris, I wanted to throw this at you because you and I kind of talked about this together earlier today. Maybe we just had higher hopes than we should have, but I think this is a valid question from VR. Andrel is, probably 4th on the depth chart behind Ronnie Bell, Cornelius Johnson, and Roman Wilson. He did have a big game against Michigan State, but do we just like him more than we should? I think that's a fair question.
Yeah, and I asked that question of myself a couple shows ago. Yeah. Like maybe I just gave him too much credit. You hate to say that because look, for as critical as we can be about this team, like we never want to be critical or overly critical of the players. Like we get that they're out there working, they're doing their best, yada yada yada. I don't know. Maybe we did get it wrong. I know he's 4th on the depth chart. I get it. I understand where he is, but I go back to what we saw last year in Lansing. Even if it's one of the worst secondaries, you don't just do the types of things that he did on accident. It doesn't just show up once a season. Like the ability to go up and grab the ball out of the air, the speed that he showed on that first play I think it was on that crossing route where Cade hit him, where he just burned everybody. Like that's just stuff that you have that translates, carries over from game to game. So maybe it is. Maybe we overvalued him. Maybe he's not as good as we think. I just don't believe that's the case at all.
And not to mention, again, maybe we were wrong. We made an assumption, but I would have assumed that he and JJ had a rapport as, classmates. They seemed to be close. When we sat down and talked with them, you could tell there was a bond between those 3 guys, JJ McCarthy, Andrel, and Donovan Edwards. So I don't know, man. Maybe we just, the number 1, the drip, the dreads. I know maybe we just thought he was better than he is. I don't know, man. Well,
look at if you've been following us for a while, I'm a sucker for the dreadlocks. Like if you got dreads and a visor and you got the drip, like I automatically think you should be phenomenal on the football field. That just comes with the territory. So yeah, there could be a part of that.
Yeah, maybe so. All right. We have kind of addressed this after each game, I think. And I don't think Captain Banana Peel, fantastic username, by the way. Appreciate that. Love saying it out loud. Worried is not the right word. But the offensive line and the lack of pure domination and the lack of, I mean, look, let's be honest. If Jim Harbaugh sat in his office on Friday night and said, I want to get Blake Corum 100 yards tomorrow, done. Like, he could have got it in any one of these 3 games. But the fact that it hasn't happened, now you've got Donovan Edwards a little dinged up, and then a true freshman as your third back. And when you think about how the running game looked last year, I'm surprised, moderately surprised, but worried is not the right word. The 3 of the 5 starters are back. Olu's a stud, and I have plenty of confidence in Trente Jones playing right tackle, especially in the run game. So,
I mean,
not at all, but it's a little bit of a head scratcher. That's about as far as I'd go.
A little puzzling because you look at what happened last year in Michigan, and particularly Blake Corum was ripping off huge chunk plays early in the year. We've talked about the offensive line a little bit, but here's a statistic that I think is interesting and noteworthy. The University of Michigan offensive line has allowed 9 negative plays on 192 offensive snaps so far. So only 9 negative plays on 192 snaps. So that's basically a negative play on 4.6% of all offensive snaps. That to me, that's pretty damn good. It shows that they're not going backwards. They're going the right way. But again, I don't know if the lack of running back production is just a matter of the guys aren't playing a full game. They're spreading the rock out a lot. Like, I think there's plenty of that. So it's not concerning. Just like the wide receiver thing isn't necessarily a huge concern. It's more of like just a head scratcher, and you can't help but wonder why you're not seeing certain things that you expected to see at the beginning of the year.
I think that's a fair way to put it. And kind of piggybacking off of that, I'm probably going to get Carrick Davenport. I hope I'm saying that right. Yeah. So what would you trust more? Let's call it 3rd and 3. 3rd and 3, running it or passing it? What would you trust more right now?
Passing it, because I'd get JJ out on the perimeter. I do like a read option. I do something where you can roll him out. You've got Blake Corum. You've got weapons everywhere. You're going to force the defense to have to account for a lot to where they're going to be overwhelmed. So
right there, again, the word is not worry, but last year that's not what the answer was. Not even there's no hesitation. It's give it to Hassan Haskins, go keep the change.
There you go.
That's what it was. I think there's some relevance there that even as high as we are on Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, what we've seen has not been as dominant on the ground as I would have thought. And it's been against bad teams. So, against Maryland, against Iowa, against Penn State, I don't know if I want him handing the ball off on a zone concept on 3rd and 3. I think I'm with you. Get JJ out on the perimeter. Let him do a zone read, a true zone read where an RPO where he can pull it out and hit a tight end over the middle. I think those are more likely to pick up that kind of yardage. But, we will see as we get into these games where they start to mean a little bit more and the offense.
Well, does Saturday mean more? Does Saturday count? Can we watch what happens Saturday and take that,
We talked about that too, right? Like if Michigan kicks Maryland's ass, it's going to be 4 games that don't matter. If it's close, then you're like, see, they're not as good as they thought.
Maryland is 3-0 right now, correct? Undefeated.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
They only beat SMU by 7 last week, so it's we'll see. We'll see.
Just wake me up November 26th.
I'm gonna throw this got asked about right when we jumped in and we were doing something else, so we didn't talk about it. Eric All.
Yeah.
Reportedly, I mean, I don't know where the buzz started from. It's on the message boards. It's on Twitter. It's on Instagram. It's here. It's there. Eric All is the player that has been talked about on offense that might miss some time. Expected to miss this week for sure, and maybe the rest of the year is what I was told. So that's not awesome. I mean, that's I hate to say it this way, but he hasn't been that involved through 3 games. We know he's got tons of potential. We saw what he did against Penn State last year. He's good in the run game as a blocker, but Michigan is deep at that position. Grant Newsom talked about that today. He said they have like 7 guys he would trust to put in there, which seems like a lot at tight end. But then he named them, and I'm like, yeah, they've all actually done some pretty good things this year. When it was Eric All, Luke Schoonmaker,
Colston Loveland,
Joel Honigford, Max Bredesen, Matt Hibner, and Selzer. So he literally named 7 guys where you could, would you rather play Scooney than Selzer? Yeah, but you can put Carter Selzer in at 6'8", 245 and be like, yeah, he'll be all right. I mean, he really named 7 guys that you could put out there and you can play winning football with. So, if that does hold true with Eric All, that's a bummer. He's a senior, new dad. I mean, shoot, well, who knows how that's factoring into his life right now, but that's the buzz on the street. As far as Donovan Edwards, I've got nothing. Chris, I don't know if you do. We both kind of speculated that he might not play this week because does he really need to? Like, I love Donovan Edwards. I think he's a special talent. Do you need Donovan Edwards to beat Maryland? I think the answer to that question is no.
No, you don't. I'm looking at some of these comments through here, and once again, it's irritating me because I feel like there is a breakdown in communication here. I see this guy
because I'm still going slowly.
Well, then we'll just let's get to the questions because I don't want to waste my time on people that are irritating me.
Let me see. Looking for question marks.
Kyle, he did get that new baby. He did. Proud papa. I think he actually wasn't it against Colorado State, right? First game of the year.
I think it was the first game of the year. Yeah.
Son was born on the first game of the year, I believe.
Oh, all right. Let's see. A lot of comments, not so many questions. Maybe it's because I'm too far behind.
Could be.
Drip makes you better. There's no doubt about it.
No, there's no question. See, VR, he gets it. Maybe we're just caught up in the drip.
Here's a good question, and it's going to vary week to week. What does a full game look like under JJ McCarthy? I'm excited to see it. I know that.
Yeah.
4, 5, 8, 10 runs.
I have an idea of what I think it could look like, but it could also, I don't know. He could also go out and have another 12 of 15 performance, 0 touchdowns, and the Michigan running backs go off. And so I don't know, like, does the game plan change now that you're in Big Ten play, or is it just kind of more of the same? And if you can play bully ball and run the ball all day long, do they just continue to do that? I do think that JJ is going to play a full 4 quarters. I mean, at some point, keep in mind, this is Michigan's last game until they go on the road and go into Kinnick. Mm-hmm. And none of those guys have played much more than a half of football yet. And so it would be nice to see, JJ go into the 4th quarter. I don't know that it's going to be necessary, but I think at this point, just to make sure that you got the gas to play the full game if you need to, you got to have your guys out there.
Yeah. Chris Fields, I want to apologize in a major way, especially since you're throwing coin at us, but I'm not really familiar with what's the super, is that like something specific to YouTube? Because on StreamYard here, where I'm watching the comments come in, I mean, I can see that they come from Facebook and YouTube, but it's not like
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I don't either. I apologize if I'm definitely not ignoring or not mentioning something on purpose. If you have a question, throw it in there and we'll try to get to it.
Yeah.
But I'm not really sure what that's about. Let me scroll back up and see.
I think later on he had addressed it and said that he had I don't know. I think he had figured it out.
Let me scroll back up and see. Maybe I'm missing. Oh, you know what? They do come through in a slightly different color.
Okay.
The super chats come through with the money attached to it, and I didn't even realize that the stuff underneath of that was a question from him. I thought it was just like,
well, let's hear him. Get him in.
I understand now. All the way back up at 7:12, so we're talking about 29 minutes ago. Chris Fields asked, is this already predetermined regardless of the game? If Michigan wins by a lot, is Maryland just terrible? But
yes.
That's what we just said. But if it turns into a contested game, then Michigan was too overhyped and didn't play anybody. Yes.
Yes.
That's what everybody's going to do.
And we went through the schedule and we talked about that. It isn't until they get to Penn State where I don't think it's going to matter, because Penn State looks like they might be a legit team. But before then, you've got Maryland, you've got Iowa, you've got Indiana. I mean, it doesn't matter what happens in those games. If Michigan struggle, it's going to be Michigan wasn't as good as we thought. And if they kick their ass, it's going to be, the teams they played aren't any good. And so I just have a really hard time with going into like week 7 or 8 before we're able to like give this team a compliment and talk about what they're accomplishing on the football field. It's just, again, we get football 4 months out of the year. And if you only want to enjoy it for 2 months, then, don't ruin the full 4 months for the rest of us.
Here's the deal. I've always operated this way. Lost a lot of followers because of it. If something's not very good, I'm going to say it. If something's really good, I'm going to say it. Michigan has covered 2 massive spreads out of the 3, and is putting up big-time numbers in a lot of areas. The defense has been lights out. J.J. McCarthy looks like a star. I think the running game is going to be just fine. I've said all of those things. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying it. Have they played shitty teams? Yeah, but they're averaging 55 and giving up 5. That's what it's supposed to look like when a good team plays a very outmatched opponent. This isn't beating Akron 28-20. This isn't, or losing to freaking Toledo like we saw a handful of years ago. This is pure dominance by a superior team. That's what it's supposed to look like. I don't see an issue with that.
And can we also talk about, and I know that people don't want to get excited about stats. What about the discipline through the first 3 weeks? Playing inferior opponents, they're playing pretty much everybody on the roster, and you're not seeing substitution mistakes. You're not seeing mental mistakes. You're not seeing any of that. And so how much can you gain from the first 3 weeks? I don't think you can gain a full sense of what this team is, but you can have an idea of what they're about defensively, what they're about offensively. Are they a disciplined team? You can learn enough about this football team to where you can have a conversation about it.
Chris, are you keeping up with the most recent comments?
Yes.
Like, are you seeing the new? Okay, here's what I want you to do. Brian Laguerre, I'm probably saying, you had a super chat too. Again, I didn't realize what that even meant at the beginning.
Okay. Yeah.
Type your comment again. As soon as Chris sees it, Chris, grab it and read it, because I don't want to. There's like a 200, dude. I don't want to scroll back up and lose my spot. But if anybody from now on wants to throw your boys a little change, I will understand what the super chat is. It pops up. It sticks out. I will grab it. Your question will be asked immediately. You don't need to send us the money, but that's pretty dope. You send us a little money and it glows for us.
I mean, gas money for the RV. I mean, you boys, we could use a little help.
It's very appreciated, and it is really a cool thing now that we've gotten over that threshold on YouTube. This is an awesome question. I'm glad Jimmy thought of it, because I saw it and I wanted to talk about it, and it slipped my mind. Chris, the first line of the game, the 2022 edition of the game, dropped today and has Michigan as a 10.5-point dog. Ohio State favored by 10.5.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Michigan hasn't won a football game in Columbus for over 20 years. You got to go back to I think it was 2000, the last time Michigan won in Columbus. They've made a lot of trips down there. They haven't won. I get that they beat the shit out of the Buckeyes last year, but Columbus is a different animal. That team's going to be ready. I mean, they're certainly not going to want to drop 2 straight to the Wolverines. I mean, Ryan Day is going to do everything he can to avoid that at all costs. They'll want his head on a platter if Michigan goes down there and beats them again. So it makes sense to me, man. I mean, look at what Ohio State has done offensively. Look at the type. I think CJ Stroud, how many touchdowns has he thrown so far? He looks solid. They look good. It makes sense to me. I'm not taking it as I'm not offended by it. I'm not surprised by it, because at the end of the day, they'll settle it on the field.
Yeah, there you go. That's a pretty big number for Michigan that handled them last year, defending Big Ten champs, and looks dynamic in a lot of ways. I'm with you. Excuse me. Not offended. Look at the track record. I get it, but that's a pretty big number considering how things went last year and how things have looked this year. Man, this feels awfully premature, but I'm going to put it up there because Chase Moeller asked it. Is J.J. McCarthy a Heisman candidate?
Not right now. No.
Yeah,
no. And I would say you're going to have to see significant change in the offensive philosophy over the next, 9 weeks in order for that to be the case. I mean, does he have that in him? Does he have that ability in him? Yes, absolutely. If you put JJ McCarthy in an offense that's designed to just sling the rock and create production through the air, yeah, I think he's a legitimate Heisman candidate potentially. But in this offense, even though the talent's there, I'm not sure that the production will ever be there for him to be in the running. I think you're much more likely to see that, out of some of the running backs. Early last year, Blake Corum was thrown in the conversation for a minute. Quarterbacks in this offense don't really put up big numbers. They don't put up Heisman type numbers. And again, I don't know, is that a reflection of the type of quarterback that we've had in Ann Arbor, or is that a reflection of the type of offense we run? I'm not sure.
He would have to double up the passing touchdown record at Michigan to be in the conversation with the quarterbacks that win the Heisman.
Yeah, like 25 isn't going to get you there.
Yeah, CJ Stroud sitting in New York, Bryce Young sitting in New York, Trevor Lawrence a couple years ago, Jalen Hurts. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. These guys are throwing 50 touchdown passes.
Yeah.
The record at Michigan is 25. I mean, it's just not going to happen. Not unless, like you said, something changes in a major way. This is a fair question because we talked about him a lot before the season started. Are we still confident that Mazi's going to have a big breakout year and tear it up during Big Ten play? All right, we could be a little more specific with what breakout and tear it up means, but Jesse Minter mentioned today that there is a balance in dealing with a guy like Mazi because he said he's an immovable object in there. He's getting double teamed a lot, and he's doing his job to perfection. But it can be frustrating because he might play literally an A++ game and not record a tackle because he's eating up 2 blockers, sometimes 3, plugging 2 gaps, collapsing the middle of the pocket, making runs bounce, and he's never getting his hand on a ball carrier. So this is a good question because I think it depends on what you mean by that. And do you need double-digit sacks out of him? I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think he's going to get that opportunity because of the way teams are treating him. But if he's doing his job that well from the D coordinator, then he's extremely valuable.
I guess we'll find out in Big Ten play whether or not people can run the ball between the tackles. I mean, that's when you'll find out what kind of impact Mazi Smith has. I'm still high on Mazi. I still think he's going to have an incredible year, but I think you make a good point. It's not going to, he's not going to go out and have double-digit sacks. He's going to be doing the dirty things in the middle that make it so whatever opposing offense they're facing can't run the game plan they want to run. And a lot of that's not going to show up on like the typical stat sheet that we look. So I'm not going back through and watching film and breaking down Mazi and seeing how he's doing on every single snap. But if running backs are gashing Michigan through the middle, then you'll know that there's a problem there. You referenced the immovable object. I view Mazi Smith as that. And I think you're going to have to try to play around him, try to get around him, go where he isn't. And from that standpoint, I think he's going to have a huge impact on him.
And if that's how it works, if offenses come in basically saying we can't run guard to guard, like then Mazi is tearing it up. Even if he never gets a tackle again, if teams literally have to take out a section of their playbook because they can't run between the guards, he's doing a phenomenal job at what he's supposed to be doing. We talked about this a little bit again. Is that question up there, Chris? Have you seen it yet?
No, somebody just asked if Brian's super chat statement was up. I still don't see it. I'm not sure where I'm missing it.
All right. Well, maybe we'll get to it again. Now that I know what that's all about,
okay,
that won't be missed again. But
resubmit it. I'm just not.
Well, I think for him, he can just say it normally now, but a super chat only pops up if they do the money thing. That's
right. Yeah, I mean, if he does it in the comments,
Again, for Carrick Davenport, do we have more confidence with the Iowa game being an early start? Absolutely.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any question. Noon game versus an 8:00 game, which was really 9:00 here because of the time zone change. The blackout or the stripe out with it. Yeah. Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. A bunch of tuned up farmers out there, dude. They'd be ready to rock by 8:00. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, you don't want to go out to Kinnick at night. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
So, I mean, moonshine just falling from the ceilings, dude.
Bib overalls with one side undone and like a nipple hanging out. A man nipple.
Dude, moonshine, nipple, whatever the hell that thing is hanging out of the mouth.
Just chewing on an ear of corn. Not even cooked, just straight from the field.
Loving it. Yeah. You want that game played at noon. There's no question. Cameron Lewis, it sounds like Nikai Hill-Green is not a full go. When asked about that today, Jesse Minter was a little bit cagey, but he pretty much confirmed that he's not back yet. He kind of said when he is back, I hope that pretty much tells you right there that he's not back. So looks like he will be out again. But Kalel Mullings has stepped up. Mike Barrett has stepped up, and Junior Colson's been phenomenal. So,
well, okay. So here, I think what Brian's statement or question is, do we expect Orji to be more involved in the red zone? Especially you've seen him come in. Obviously, he takes the snap. He's a big body. I mean, it's once he gets moving forward, it's hard to stop him. Do you anticipate you're going to see more of Alex Orji in the red zone even during Big Ten play, or are we looking at that? Maintain the red shirt. That those 4 games. Is that where we're at?
I don't think you will. I don't because JJ's such a good runner. I know he's a different runner. I mean, dude, Orji is a brick shit house. He's 235 probably on a good day. I'll be interested to see. If my first instinct is no. I think he kind of got a little taste of playing during these non-conference games. Not sure if he played in all 3. I know 2 for sure, obviously. He scored twice. But I just kind of feel like he's one of those guys that you'll put back on the shelf a little bit because you don't really need him down there. But we'll see. He's effective. There's no doubt about that. I mean, that's a big, strong, athletic dude. I mean, he brings a completely different quarterback run element than J.J. McCarthy does. You can run a lot of different styles of plays. I mean, J.J.'s a great runner, but he's not a power guy, and Orji certainly is that. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I would guess no. I think he's probably going to chill for a while. I don't know. We'll see, though. Let me see. There's that Mazi question again. We got to that one. So this again, we've addressed it a little bit earlier. Do we think that we see more edge rushing pressure and sacks this Saturday? Minter opens it up a little bit more. I do. I do think you'll see that because Talia Tagovailoa is a talent. He's got an arm. He's going to want to push it downfield. He's got receivers that want to get downfield. It's not going to be a dink and dunk, just try to get rid of it so we don't get killed type of thing. I mean, I don't know how confident Maryland is, but they are 3-0. They do have some talent, and they would love to play spoiler. So they're going to come in there thinking they might have a shot. I mean, you could probably take the most confident guy on any 3 of those first 3 teams, and they know they're not winning that game. And I don't know if Maryland thinks they can win it, but they're not going to come in and just try to not get hurt and not get sacked a bunch. They're going to come into play. So I think there's going to be some opportunities for some, play action, 5 and 7 step drops, sending some pressure, getting there quickly, and putting Tagovailoa on the ground. I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think, and I don't know how. I don't even know if it's so much of like Jesse Minter opening it up. I just think that the style of offense that Maryland plays is going to lend itself to the guys getting to the quarterback a little bit more.
Yeah, great question right here. Jimmy Stutz. My brother is getting married on Saturday in Ohio. He is a Buckeye. The ceremony. Is it wrong of Jimmy to just show up to the reception?
No.
Your brother.
You listen to me. You can't schedule your wedding on a fall Saturday. Like if you do that, you have to understand that there are some people that base their entire lives around fall Saturdays. And when those games are on, like dude, my wedding, guess when we got married? On the bye week. Because I told my wife, Chantel, I said, if we get married when Michigan's playing, I won't be able to give you my full attention. It's like in my DNA. And so I feel like, yeah, Jimmy, if you want to just go to the reception, go to the reception. Your brother should know better, but he's a Buckeye. So what do you expect?
Yeah, I was going to say the Buckeye part factors in for me.
Jimmy, we won't be mad at you. You'll be all good here.
I won't be mad at you. Your brother might have a beef with you for a little while. I mean, I don't know how you feel about
you can be part of our family.
I don't know how you feel about the soon-to-be sister-in-law in the first place. If you're already on her bad side, you probably do whatever you want. If you're not yet, you will be if you don't go to that ceremony. So, tread lightly there. But that's
you can't get married on a fall Saturday. It's just the way it is.
On Jimmy's brother. I hope he's in here. Good Lord. Who signed off on that?
Goodness.
All right. This is a good question. I don't know if we've ever actually talked about this. Do we think Mikey Sainristil is going to get himself a pick this year?
Yeah, I do. I mean, he's too active. We've talked about it before. He's essentially a coach on the field, man. He just looks so good and so comfortable no matter where he's at. He's physical. He's quick. He's too talented. I don't know when it's going to come, but at some point in time, Mike Sainristil is going to get an interception. I think he might even get a couple this year, man. He has just been incredible. He went from, and we talked about this on the last show, he went from like we thought token move to the defensive side of the ball. And now we're both pretty much convinced he's going to the NFL as a defender.
Yeah. Well, apparently, I know I missed, I know I wasn't in the RV last week. The week before that, I had to leave for a minute to handle a technical difficulty, and CJ stepped in for me. I don't know what's I think I'm being phased out. But Ron Thomas, Chris, did Penn State surprise you?
No. Well, I don't know. I mean, no. You always expect Penn State to be a little. Are you talking about when they beat Auburn? I guess I'm a little bit surprised by that, but I thought Penn State was going to be good. And I mean, we'll see what happens when they come to Ann Arbor. I think everybody's pointing to that's the game where you're finally going to find out whether or not Michigan's for real, because we talked about what the schedule looks like prior to that. It's, they have Indiana, they've got Maryland, they've got teams where Iowa, if Michigan beats them, we talked about it. If they beat them good, then those teams sucked and you haven't learned anything about Michigan. So I think Penn State's going to be the first week where this fan base in general will be comfortable with knowing what they have with Michigan. Where the hell did Brandon go?
Oh, can I come back now? Is that all right with you, Ron Thomas?
I mean, are you surprised by Penn State? I mean, I guess I didn't really think that they were going to be. I didn't really have an opinion on Penn State going into the year because they're one of those programs that I always think they're going to be decent. And sometimes they shit the bed. They got a little bit of that in them too. So they're kind of a little bit of a wild card. I didn't
know that Auburn was. I'm not trying to take anything away from Penn State's win because they kicked their ass down on their field. Like that is impressive to do, even if Auburn is down. But Auburn's down. I didn't realize Auburn wasn't as good as they are.
That's probably a better question. Are you surprised?
Yeah,
about
I think
Auburn?
Auburn's worse than I just. I don't follow them day to day. I don't really know. I didn't even know who their quarterback was until I flipped that game on and watched a little bit of it. And then Penn State's running all over them, and they won. I don't know. What was the final? It was like 41-10 or something, wasn't it? They killed them, dude. It was not a game. I'm surprised that Penn State was able to win by that much because during the first couple
and
games,
at night
they weren't that impressive. And I've never been a huge Sean Clifford guy. He's like he's whatever. He's fine. But I
don't like Uncle Cliffy?
Like he's fine. He's good, but I don't think he's like game changer good. I mean, I think he falls into that camp, and you can win. You can win with guys like that. But
I'm telling you though, that drop back script, like the way that he can burn a defense with his legs, where he scampers up the middle, like he's got that in him. He's got that extra gear, and I think that's part of what makes him a little bit dangerous, is because he doesn't look like the type of guy that can do that, but he can burn you with his legs. There's no question. Michigan was on the receiving end of that, I think, back in 2020 when 0-5 Penn State came into Michigan Stadium and beat up on the Wolverines. So he's got that in him.
What time?
There's no Trace McSorley though. There's no doubt.
That guy was a thorn in the side, man. All right, what time are we going to be at the RV, Chris, on Saturday? Another noon kick, so we'll be parking it at 8, 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, park the RV right about 8 o'clock. Set up, 8:30. We hop on the live show at 9, go for about an hour, and then right around 10 we head to the RV. And so we head to the stadium. So on the on the noon games, it's a little bit like our window with the RV is so small. But even last weekend, man, we had like 20 people hanging out outside the RV. And so, yeah, come through. I mean, from 8 to 10, we'll certainly be there. But we're also going to have people manning the RV while we're not there. So certainly if you're out tailgating, walking around, you're more than welcome to stop by, grab some of that Wolverine State Brewing Company. My wife was handing out beers left and right as people were coming after the game. So whether it's before the game, during the game, after the game, if you see the RV at 517 Berkeley, stop on by, grab something. Come see us.
Come see your boys. That's right. Chris, updates on the online store. I know we've got some lines in the water, man. Things are cooking along. We've got some stuff that was sent to our guy, Rich. I mean, this is just another area.
I'm going to give it all away. Look, I'll just move it around a little bit here, tease it a little. It's coming.
It's in the works.
The apparel's coming. I sent out the designs today. We're working on getting everything produced. My hope is that it's going to be ready this weekend. I doubt it's going to be ready this weekend. We're probably looking at next week. On the road, ironically, when we go to Iowa, we might have some merch out there. But, sometimes we juggle a lot of things over here. We're doing apparel. We're doing sponsorships, the RV, the social media side, the articles, the publishing site. There's a lot of different hats that we wear, but certainly, Darren, I know you've been asking for merchandise for a while now, and trust me, I want to get it out there. It's just, we want to do it the right way. We want to make sure it looks good. We don't want it to be a shitty product, and we've gone through that a little bit.
I mean, keep in mind, we just got the RV like at the beginning of August. Yeah. I mean, it'd be different if we knew we were going to have the RV and it was done back in the spring and we were,
Can I say about that RV? I can't say what it is right now, but we do have another sponsor coming on. We have another sponsor coming on. It's a big time spot. I mean, it's, for us in terms of the contribution they're going to make, it's big time for us. We're super, super excited to share it eventually. My hope is that the photo shoot we'll end up doing this week.
Just calm down a little bit.
We got some things coming with that RV. So, again, we're always pushing forward, man. The apparel, the sponsorships, we're constantly trying to grow. We're going to make it happen. Just be patient with us because we're two guys that are really trying to figure out a lot of stuff right now.
That's your big boy.
That's your big boy.
That's right. That is right.
That's right. Hey, Fletch, I like that idea. We'll make a shirt with the RV on it.
It's not a bad idea.
Rosie.
That's not a bad idea. Let me see here. What else we got coming? Brian's super chat. Man, I was way behind the question. I'm still at 750 right now, and it's actually 803 real time. So that gives you guys an idea of how many things are coming through. Again, appreciate that. Always appreciate that because without all this, we wouldn't really have a show here tonight.
We're just a couple of dickheads talking to ourselves at that point.
Yeah. Did Brian really leave? We did get to his question, didn't we?
I think he came back though. I think he left and came back.
Okay, here's a good question. Would you rather have Michigan State or Penn State for the night game?
I want Michigan State at night, primetime, national television. I want that ass whooping to be broadcast all over the country. That's what I want.
But here's the deal. That is the homies weekend. Penn State.
Damn, that's right. That is right. But isn't it kind of looking like it's leaning towards MSU? Right?
I think it does, man.
So, I mean, if I had a choice, I would prefer it to be like, I know we got guys coming in. I would prefer it to be Michigan State for sure.
I just saw CJ's comment when we were talking
black
about
people in Iowa.
Yes, that's absolute hilarity. We were talking about the corn cob chewing on and the nipple hanging out, and then come on, guys, we got black people in Iowa. Not a lot, not that many. That's hilarious. That's the fun. See, I like being able to get to all of them, but I don't see the comments as the discussion is happening. So, yes,
Travis, we want 8 hours of tailgating before the MSU game. We want it to be a drunken, raucous shit show in the stadium of just noise. Like that's where I'm at with this game. And you talk about rival fans and how much chatter has been going on out there. I think I said it on the last show. It's not going to be enough for Michigan to just beat Michigan State. Like this has to be an outright ass whooping. And I think it's going to happen. And so I'd prefer it to happen in primetime on national TV so that there's nothing they can say after that. It happened. Kind of like what happened in Washington, except I expect it to be worse in Ann Arbor.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've kind of talked about this, but who's the biggest challenge before Ohio State? It's got to be Penn State, right? They've looked the best.
No. It's Michigan State.
Party. Okay. All right.
It's Michigan. What's Jim Harbaugh's record against Mel Tucker?
I know.
What is it?
What's Michigan State's record against Washington this year? I mean, they look like shit in that for most of that game. And I feel like if you watch that game and then they say all right, well, look what Washington. I mean, it was Penix. So he's a good player. He's a really good player, actually. But I just feel like with Michigan, with JJ, with the receivers, do that, but better.
Yeah.
That's how I would look at that. That's a long trip out west. I get it, but this is a good one. We talked about Mikey already. Captain Banana Peel again with another solid question. Maryland is going to test one Mike Sainristil, aka Agent Zero. How does he do locked up in one-on-ones with a Big Ten level slot, speedy, potentially next level kind of guy? I'd have to look at who that might be for them. I know Maryland has pulled in a couple high 4-star, even a 5-star wide receiver in their day. What the hell's that guy's name? I can't remember the guy's name that was their biggest recruit in a long time. He was from the.
You're talking about from Maryland?
Yeah, Jarrett. I think I'll look that up while you're talking, but that is going to be a test, man. I'm very angry because he has been so good that I just if he doesn't do well, I'll be like, what's wrong with Mike? What's wrong with Sainristil? But
he acknowledged that he acknowledged that before going into the season. I think somebody had asked him what is your confidence level on the defensive side of the ball? And in terms of being able to, go through his reads and understand what's happening and understand the defense, he's there. But even Mike Sainristil will admit he hasn't lined up against big-time talent yet, and so he doesn't know how he's going to perform until he's in that role. I think we're all kind of like, let's see how he does. But if we're basing it on the first 3 weeks of the season, Captain Banana Peel, I think he does fine. He looks like a solid defender. He looks like he's been out there doing it the first 3 years of his career. All of the coaches have been extremely complimentary of not just his talent on the defensive side of the ball, but the way he coaches guys out there, the way he talks guys up. I think he's going to do just fine, man. He's an experienced guy. He's got a lot of football under his belt. He'll be fine.
I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see exactly. Let me see. So
yeah, Justin Jordan, he might be lining up against big time talent every day in practice, but are they slinging it around? Is he learning how to, is he getting that type of experience? And then obviously it's completely different on Saturday when you're in a stadium in front of 110,000 people. But yeah, I mean, Justin, you do have a point there. He's been doing it in practice. He's been lining up against talent for a while now. So it's not going to be like it's not going to be like you and I out there, Brandon.
Right. Raheem Jarrett was the big time five-star wide receiver. He's now a junior from Maryland, from Palmer Park, played at St. John's College, one of the big talent producing schools there. And then they also have Dante Demas, who was a 5-star recruit, freak show athlete, 6'4", 215. They've got dudes. And so it's going to be a test. And then no wonder that's a tongue twister. Tagovailoa, that sounded like a fart. I don't know what that was supposed to be.
Oh, this? You didn't hear that?
Now I can. It's when I'm talking, it like kind of cuts it out a little bit. But anyway, they've got some dudes. So yeah, it's going to be a big test for Sainristil, who, while looked really good, that he's a new DB. I mean, there's no denying that. All right, let's keep going here. We are north of an hour, so we're going to start wrapping her up a little bit. I'm going to try to get as close back to right now as we can. Who will be the first Michigan defender to get a pick 6? So that's a crapshoot.
I guess I would say if it happens, who do you think is going to be the guy that does it?
I'll say DJ Turner again.
I was going to say DJ Turner again. Yeah.
He's done it before. He did it to Maryland last year, actually. So there you go. Yeah, we'll see.
Hey, my kid's in the comment section here. Sully Sylvie. What's up, guys?
But that's a guess. That's just a flat out guess when you don't really know. That's such a toss up. Do we see JJ getting 300-ish yards and 2 to 3 touchdown passes on Saturday? Yeah, he should. Should he not?
I don't know. If they're beating the shit out of Maryland, why? What's the point? Just hand the ball off and run it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think that's what's going to be probably, that's where the biggest intrigue for me is this Saturday is, does the offense look different than what it's looked like the first 3 weeks? And a guy like JJ McCarthy absolutely should have 300 through the air and 2 to 3 touchdown passes on Saturday against Maryland. But will he be allowed to be? Will the offense, play in a way that's conducive to that? We'll see. We'll find out.
See there. So your boy Blue with another super chat and nothing with it. So that's what, like, I saw the little, I didn't realize that that's why it was a different color, is to make it stand out. So that way I can address it. So I'm good now. Anybody else who wants to do that, you will not be ignored. And I wasn't ignoring those guys either. We just hadn't started doing the questions yet. So
Brian, that wasn't me last week. That was Brandon that had JJ at 4 touchdowns last week. That was Brandon, and I think I agreed with you on that. I think that I had called that smart call, and then he finished with 0 touchdowns. So again, there's no excuse for JJ McCarthy to ever not have a touchdown pass in a game. There we go, the kids.
Sully and Sylvie making an appearance.
It's 8:12 on a school night. What the hell are you guys doing?
There you have it. I am caught up, sir. I'm at 8:12. Brian Petrosky is now at the bottom. Uncle Mike down there. Let's throw an Uncle Mike question up real fast. How much freedom does JJ have to change plays at the line? I don't think Uncle Mike, I don't think that they do that much, because they so often JJ will approach the line. He'll do his little fake clap, and then they stand back and look. In college, they don't huddle, so you get to the line, you see what the defense is doing, you've got the guys up in the booth, you can talk to them from the sidelines with the signals and the signs and all that stuff. It's just a different vibe. I mean, you're not getting like a Peyton Manning-esque quarterback in college. They go out there, they see what they see, they look back over to the sidelines, they either run with the play they've got or they change into something else. You don't see near as much like pre-snap motion. I mean, it's not quite the same thing as it is in the NFL. So I don't think it's like they trust him or they don't, or he can't handle it. I just don't think they do it. There's no need because everything is called from the sidelines. So I could be wrong on that a little bit. Like if he sees something like imminent or immediate right when he goes up there, maybe he has the freedom to do that a little bit. But I think so much of it is called directly from the sideline. That's why you see JJ do his fake clap, and then they all, everybody, the linemen, they stand back up. Everybody stands back up and looks over to the side, and they make the call, and then they run with what they got. So I just don't think that happens that much in college. Not the same as it is in the pros. I mean, think about it, dude. These NFL quarterbacks are, 6, 8, 10-year veterans. They're 30 years old. They can study film all day. They can be at the facility all day. There's no practice restrictions. They can go do – I mean, it's just it's a completely different approach and a completely different game at that level. So, Chad, I think this is a good question too, because – obviously, JJ was brought in the game to run the ball last year. So, that's what he did. And it's clear that he's running 4.5. He's running 4.4, but he's still only about $190. He's not the biggest dude in the world. So, Chris, where do you see JJ's role as a runner? How does it evolve? Because he barely has it all through the first 3 games, and it's understandable why. But now that they're in Big Ten play, what's it going to look like?
I think it's a matter of, has he learned to get down and protect himself? And I think that was one of the things that Coach Harbaugh was talking about. Obviously JJ has, he's got the speed, he's got the athleticism, but you don't want your QB1 taking big hits like that. And so does he have that in him? Will we see it more this weekend? I don't know. I think he's talented enough with his arm to where you don't need to see it yet. I think once you get into the latter part of the year and you start to get against, the Penn States, the Michigan States, obviously the Ohio States, at that point, you're going to use the full, whatever's in your bag of tricks, and JJ running is going to be a big part of that. But I think at this point in the year against this type of opponent, JJ is plenty dangerous enough dropping back, going through his reads and finding his receivers out there. And so I don't think you're going to see that a lot until Michigan really gets into some dogfights.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to run more than he did in the first 3. I feel safe saying that. I still don't think he's going to, be a big part of the run game when you've got a Blake Corum, and eventually Donovan Edwards will be back. Maybe it's this week. I mean, we haven't heard. I've seen a couple people asking about that, so we haven't heard anything one way or the other. We talked about it on Monday that I think both you and I, Chris, said that we wouldn't play him, and it's because what we said, love him, talented, think he's going to be a stud. Do you need Donovan Edwards to beat Maryland? If the answer to that is no, and he's not truly 100%, then you sit him out, and you running back's a tough position, man. It's physical. They're getting hit on every play. So that's how I would approach it. So yeah, we'll see what that looks like. And, I don't think you want to take weapons off the table just because there's a chance something could happen. Speaking to JJ as a runner, but if you don't need to put him in harm's way, you shouldn't, I guess. But part of that is on him too, though, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the big deciding factor has he learned to protect himself? Because he's a playmaker. He wants to go out and fight for every single yard he can get, and he's got to understand. I think he said that in one of the press conferences that there's a lot of people counting on him being on the field. It's not just about him going out and getting yards. And he is a tough kid too, man. I mean, he's like, I'm a hockey player, man. I like checking. I like contact. I like bodying up with people. All right, well, you also weigh $190, and that dude trying to hit you is 265. Let's just chill a little bit because I love it. I love the confidence. He's got that dog in him. He's got it.
I like this question. Maybe we'll close on this. Not exactly a football question, but our story a little bit, Chris. How long have we been sports writers? I'm not really sure what the next part of that is, Darren, if you want to clarify. Make a spot for origins of the Winged Helmet and Wolverine Digest. I'm not really sure what that means. But
maybe
anyway.
Just an area where people can go to learn about how we got to where. There's always on websites, there's always an about page, how things came about. I would assume that's I mean, geez, we're an hour 14 into it. Brandon's been doing the writing side of it for far longer than I have. I've been doing started the Winged Helmet social media platform back in the summer of 2017. And it's steadily grown every single year. And the way that Brandon and I got together was, we'll get into that maybe in a different show. I think we're actually going to do a podcast with our guy, Rich, where he does this, Darren, where he actually, he runs a podcast as well, where he interviews people like us who start businesses and kind of, ask those questions about how you guys got to where you are. So I think that's coming, but man, it's, our journey has been pretty incredible to get to where we're at now and to be able to do the things that we're doing. And I think it's a story that's worth telling for sure.
Yeah. Weird how it came together for both of us. I mean, we grew up near each other, kind of knew who each other was, had a mutual friend. I mean, dude,
we were in the same wedding.
Me and Chris were in our buddy Zach's wedding, and I don't know if we spoke that day. I mean, maybe like, small talk. I don't really remember, but just bizarre how it all came together. I started my own website on a blog spot, Google thing like back in 2011. And it just was really kind of for a hobby when I was living in South Carolina. And then it morphed and evolved into getting hired, and then it evolved again. And now I'm the publisher. And it's just been really, really weird, like how it all came together. And so, yeah, that would be a good, we could go into much more detail about, focusing in on the steps along the way, but that's the gist of it. I mean, to answer Darren's question directly, I've been doing this for a job since 2014, but I started the website a few years before that, but I wasn't making a penny. I was just doing it just because I wanted to, and it ended up turning into something. So I was a teacher at the time. I mean,
with the Winged Helmet, like I did that for, a number of years before. I've only been Brandon and I got together. What was it? Towards the end of 2020? Is that when we first linked up towards the end of that?
We started doing like a few things here and there in like November of 2020. Yeah.
Yeah. So we started doing that. And then 2021 was our first. I mean, think about this. 2021 was our first season together. And look at what that season was like, what Michigan did that year. They go out, they beat Ohio State, they win the Big Ten championship, they go to the college football playoff. Like, that was my first year officially covering the team. And so my expectations now are high. Like, it's going to take a lot to live up to what that experience was last year. And I want to experience that again. That was such a fun ride, just being along with the team and getting to experience a lot of the things they got to experience. And so hopeful to be able to do that again. But man, 2021 was incredible. And 2022 is off to a solid start. I mean, we got an RV in year 2.
Yeah. I mean, so my first year was Brady Hoke's last, not the same experience. And I was covering recruiting. It was brutal. It was brutal. Yeah, so yeah, it was not ideal. Chris had a much more enjoyable and smoother entrance into the profession. But
I did.
Yeah, that would be. We will probably do that. I forgot that Rich wanted to do that with us, so that would be really cool. And when we do that, when we do that, we'll put it on our site too. I mean, it'll be available for you guys to check it out. So anyway, we're gonna start fading her out there now that we're getting up towards the hour and 20-minute mark. Really, really, really appreciate all the comments and all the questions and all the interaction, and dude, especially the super chats. Like, you guys are going above and beyond. Really, really appreciate all that. That's why, I mean, Wednesday's the easiest show of the week, dude. We just show up and flap our lips a little bit, dude.
Yeah, man. I mean, they every single Wednesday, man. I'm looking down, like I can see on Facebook, we're almost over 500 comments at this point. Like, we blaze through an hour like it's nothing, man. Totally unscripted, and that's because you guys bring it every single Wednesday. And so I'm so happy that we stumbled on Fan-Led Wednesday, and it's become such a cool way to get to know, some of the people that we interact with on a daily basis online. I think it's been awesome, and I look forward to it. I look forward to Wednesdays, man. I really enjoy it.
It's nice. I mean, there's not like a ton of prep that goes into each show, but like there's virtually none on Wednesday. And I dig that. I dig that.
I dig
so, thank you guys again so much. Friday at 7:00, pregame show, predictions, looking at the slates, checking out what we're gonna do, getting you rich. I mean, if you want to make bets, if you're a gambling person, again, I tell you, listen to Chris.
Wait, if you're a gambling person, listen to me? No, don't listen to me. No.
Don't do that. Just being goofy there. Yeah. Friday night,
You're
7 o'clock.
You're the one who's the degenerate here. That's who they need to go to. Go to Brandon for all your gambling advice.
I haven't been on a heater lately, so I don't know. But anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. Friday night, 7 o'clock. We'll see you.
Appreciate y'all.